I've been playing D'Addario strings for 12 years. When I first joined the band, I was experimenting. You try different strings, you see what works, you see what's comfortable, and then you find what you like, and it's like, cool, that works. No need to change that.
Hey everyone, it's Chris Kies for Premier Guitar. Today's rig rundown was with Baroness, but extra fun, we got to do a
drum rundown.
All right, Jarrad's here in the house.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, it was really cool. I'm a big Baroness fan. I have been for a long time, since like Yellow and Green era. I got to sit down with Seb and get into it, and I just think it's an interesting kind of drummer because that's such an interesting kind of band that is a little bit in a different lane, and I've always like really loved his approach to kind of like the musicality of like those big, long songs.
With the guitar setup, they had, I think, 2 guitars and then one each backup. So again, streamlined.
Yeah.
And their pedal boards were robust.
Sure.
And they had stereo setups as you'll see with double amps, and so that was cool. But yeah, they have Gina and John both have big pedal boards. Yeah. Even so, I believe John's big muff, didn't fit. It like sat over the pedal board. Yeah. And so he always had to it was an addendum every night to help survive.
Also, the big muff is like, you know, that big anyway. It's like the size of 4 Boss pedals or something.
Before we let the people at home get to watch this rig rundown and drum rundown, which they need to go check out on the Drum Rundown channel, what's your favorite color when it comes to Baroness?
I would say red really like sticks out to me. It always has, and purple as well. Purple, probably purple. Yeah, I feel like I bought purple on multiple formats. You know, like vinyl, cassette, and cassette? Yeah, it's right over there.
I'm a blue guy, and I want to throw this out there for any of the Midwest people, especially Chicagoans. I got to see them the first time, like 2008, 2009, outdoors, opening for Clutch at Kuma's Corner. Which is a great heavy metal bar.
That's awesome.
So go there, check out their not only awesome music selection they have there, but they have some awesome burgers named after your favorite bands.
Yeah.
On that note,
the Goat Snake.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. If you're gonna go get the Goat Snake, it's real good.
On that note, folks, I'm hungry, and here's some tasty jams from Baroness. Drum rundown, rig rundown.
Hey everyone, this is Chris Kies for Premier Guitar. I'm at the Basement East in Nashville, Tennessee, joined by John and Gina of Baroness again. How are you guys doing?
Still good?
Well, awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. It's been 5 years. You guys have a kind of a new setup, but a new record, and congrats on that.
Thank you.
It's a process that I'd like to explore real quick, is that you guys, created ideas, shared them. We just talked to Seb, and he said you guys had deadlines every Friday, sharing them on Dropbox.
Did.
Kind of devoured those and probably ingested them and worked on those, but an Airbnb, right?
Yes.
That's where we recorded. Yeah.
We did.
What was that experience like? Because not only recording an Airbnb, which I'm sure is not a thing that they put in the listing, like great for acoustics. And then also you guys did production yourself, so I'm sure that was a whole different experience.
Yeah, it was really, I don't know, I had a blast doing it.
Yeah.
It was a very rewarding experience. I think we all enjoyed it.
I think we kind of lucked out with the acoustics of the house. We walked in, there was like a stone wall and then like an adjacent brick wall and then like sheetrock that didn't go all the way to the ceiling, so we could put mics like up there. We kind of like struck gold with the layout of this random Pennsylvania mountain
Or was it?
retreat.
Was it actually? It was actually New York. I think
Oh,
it was
you're right.
just
I'm sorry.
over the, it was just
Berryville,
over
New
the
York.
river into New York.
We did do a short Airbnb like vocal
Okay.
session where we were just trying to be out of the way of like.
Who's in charge of booking these in the band?
It was kind of a team. It was more of a team effort.
Shared the links,
Yeah, I
everyone
mean,
proofed it.
Sebastian and
Nick
Nick
and Seb went and
definitely did the scouting on the full Airbnb that we made the 98% of the record in, just to make sure that it would potentially sound good. But you don't actually know until you've got equipment and you're recording what it's going to sound like. So I think Gina's very correct. We got extremely lucky, but it was the whole process was fun. It was just like nonstop hard work. We didn't really break or give ourselves leisure time per se. It just kind of was like all hands on deck all the time because there's 4 of us, and not only are we writing and arranging the songs during the process, but we're also engineering. Setting up microphones on a nearly constant daily basis, and then doing the tape op or the actual recording. It would sort of be like the situation where we're all in one big room, facing in, and we would just jam 8-10 hours a day until we were ready, and then the recording process was kind of. I mean, it was kind of funny because we didn't have an assistant engineer or producer or anybody. It was like, okay, everybody remember what we just did, and then one of us would run into the other room, press the space bar on the computer. It was like 30 feet away. Then come back in, count in and play, and like time is kind of money in a typical studio situation. But because this was a month, we had it for a month.
Okay.
And because we had it sort of wired up to be functional for whatever we wanted, that kind of time expenditure wasn't really like too much of a pain in the butt for us.
Yeah.
It just was sort of annoying that you'd go through this minute and a half long, 2-minute long process of like getting ready to record and then pressing record, and then you come back in and then like somebody flubs, and then you've got to stand up, go back in, erase it, start from scratch all over again. But I think that realities like that in the situation we were in actually helped us because it made us value each performance that we captured. It made us really value those things, and it kept us very focused. I think we were talking about this last week, like trying to share stories from being in there for a month, or trying to share photos or videos.
We don't really have any stories.
We don't have stories or photos or videos. It was just
bad.
It was just work.
Just
but it was
working
great.
really hard in here.
We because of the way we had it set up, it was sort of like the first half of the day would always be rehearsing and jamming and like really working at the musical aspects and the arrangement aspects of things, and then the second half of the day, and I'm being a little bit loose with this, but generally speaking, the second half of the day we'd be prepared and we'd be recording, and there just wasn't, due to the just being 4 people trying to do the work of 6 or 7 day in and day out, we're just always moving and working, and I think it's the way that records. It's one very good way that records can be written.
Yeah, I bet. And I'm sure having, like you said, everyone's wearing several hats, the focus had to be there. And I'm sure just almost learning things on the fly, or I'm sure you guys all have experience in recording demos and stuff like that, but having it to be, it's your job's on the line, it's your duty to do these things correctly. I'm sure you were figuring things out on the fly too.
Yeah,
It's amazing, like more things didn't go wrong.
There
There was like one time where like there's like a bad XLR and we're like chasing down like lines, and but I was like, man, that could have been the whole month.
But like literally, like if the power hadn't been adequate in the room, in the house, if we were in a situation where we were like blowing fuses, or if the nature of the power wasn't conditioned well enough to the point where we're getting like a lot of external noise or hum or feedback or anything like that, we wouldn't have had a solution. We're not electricians.
Yeah.
We're not full-time engineers. So, we really got lucky.
We got lucky. Yeah.
Nothing. All it would have taken was anything important to break, and we would have been done.
Yeah,
For the
absolutely.
day, the week, the month.
Yeah, and you would have been in an Airbnb just hanging.
Just hanging out.
Yeah, like 2.5 hours
absolutely.
from anything resembling a technician that could help us. So it was cool. It was the pressure was a nice motivator. The closeness for the 4 of us, I think, was really helpful because we really got into a very good rehearsal, engineering, production, arrangement, composition, recording habit that was consistent and solid and steady, and had the time. We had the time in the process to let the songs sort of develop and blossom as we were writing them, which was nice.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of experiences that you guys, if you were to remember, of things organically shifting and changing and transforming into different starting and ending points based on your guys' time and being able to digest those ideas and then come out with a whole different thought process or a application of whether it's tones that you're chasing or sounds or melodies. I'm sure that was a good experimentation land.
I feel like that was like 50% of it was just monkeying around and seeing if we could make something that didn't seem like it should sound cool.
Yeah.
Sound cool, or using, like we're pretty avid. We look into the world of audio pretty avidly. Like we're all pretty well versed and well equipped in a studio situation to make decisions like that. So we got to experiment around a little bit and do some things that we maybe wouldn't have had time to do in a more financially all-consuming studio situation. So we could play with putting mics in bonkers places or using equipment that was just kind of funky and wild. And I think that's the sort of thing that the four of us really enjoy, because it in fact inspires new ideas, which then supersede the ideas that we thought we were working on and become focal points. So we were quite frequently at the end of a tracking session, we'd be really surprised at the result, because it wasn't what we intended, and it was that unburdening yourself of intentions that I think was really helpful with this record.
Now, talking about gear, you guys, how did you guys approach what you took into the Airbnb? Was it trying to take as much of your, I guess, live arsenal, or take anything at your disposal, or what was that? Bringing it back to the gear aspect of things.
We took everything.
I think we took everything.
Yeah,
everything
anything
we
could
had.
think of. Yeah, filled a huge U-Haul truck full of everything and anything.
Yeah.
No pedal left behind. It's a little bit unnecessary.
It was
we didn't know that
extremely unnecessary
at the time. Yeah.
Would I do it any differently? No.
No,
probably not.
Is John capable of doing it any differently?
I don't think so. I think it's a little bit of an old dog, new tricks.
Now,
we took everything.
Were you using some of your live gears? We'll get into that now. Like, the live instruments, were they represented on the new record?
Oh, for
Absolutely,
sure.
yeah.
I mean, everything we brought, the majority of stuff that we brought, we figured out some use for.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's short of just a couple of really vintage boutique things that don't come on the road.
Okay.
Everything that we use live is on the record.
Got it.
Yeah.
And what are some aspects of those vintage pieces that maybe people aren't aware of if they haven't read any other interviews or have heard you guys talk about the record that get used? I know you have a 330 or 335 that you use in recordings.
It's what is it? It's
like a Gibson?
Yeah, well, it's you just made me forget what it is. I think it's a 330.
Right?
Okay.
Oh, 330?
35's the humbuckers, 30's the P90s, right?
Okay, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's the one with the P9s, because like a 62 Gibson. I mean, a great deal of I would say that like the amp tone on that record comes from two vintage amps three vintage amps that we really favor, which is I've got like a 72 Fender Vibro Champ that's been modded so the tone circuit's pulled out of it, so when you crank it, it's just like
more.
It's just lots of
There's
distortion.
A lot of that one cranked. We did a lot of like miking the back of that specific amp. That Gibson, we have an old Gibson Falcon, or that era of Gibson amps that are
almost looks something like a piece of furniture or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like a late 50s, mid-century modern amp.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Does not come on tour, but it's great in the studio.
It is a great, that's a great amp.
A lot of tones we got out of just miking John's Gibson, just not plugged in, just getting the resonant sound of the hollow body. That was like a great texture to layer with like acoustics.
And that was a thing that I heard when I was really young, that Dave Navarro did in the Been Caught Stealin'. Like that whole track is him like strumming an electric guitar that's just mic'd. And so I think we did it once or twice on Blue, and I hadn't done it. We hadn't done anything like that in a while, and I can't remember what we did on maybe two tracks.
Songs, definitely a track called Magnolia.
Okay.
We tracked some acoustic outside in the freezing cold where we had like
it was 27, 28 degrees
cup
outside.
of like hot water that I kept like putting my hands around in between takes, and then we doubled that with the Gibson, just resonant sound, and yeah, we did I don't know. There's way more acoustic on the record than I ever like remember, but
Yeah.
I think there's acoustic on
In
almost
every song, yeah.
Like whether it's a layer in like a chorus just to bring some brightness to and excitement to the choruses, or if it's like a main kind of part or whatever. But yeah, that was a cool trick.
Yeah, but that was on what she was saying. Like we do always allow ourselves actually a great deal of time to do things that are sort of concepts that you come up with just like in an immediate sense, like a spontaneous concept that sounds kind of like silly, like the Magnolia acoustic intro. It was like, it wasn't cold. It was well below freezing. Yeah. It wasn't. It was like one take at a time, and you got to like warm your hands up. It was more like an environmental decision that seemed like it would affect the performance and potentially bring something cool out. So then there's the added pressure of like, well, I've only got so long before my fingers stop working, and it's a little windy, which is tricky to work with in a studio situation. Yeah. So I think it like colors the performance maybe in a subtle way that it would be hard for us to articulate, but it lends itself to like a feeling on record, which I think is actually quite important. I think really Stone is in many cases it's about us trying, almost in a scientific way, how to get creative results, like foreseeable creative results out of different environments like that. But then another an auxiliary thing that comes along with that, for instance, again with the Magnolia acoustic intro that Gina's doing, is there's one point where a gust of wind sort of hits the mic and depresses the capsule, and completely her guitar completely is obscured by a wind gust, and that's cool to us. Yeah. That like lends itself to the environmental aspect of it. So when we were at the mixing stage with Joe Barisi out in Los Angeles, he's like, I can fix this, like, but we that wasn't something we were interested in. So or the last word solo that Gina does it really is the sound of like her guitar and that vibro champ just dimed and in my dining room at 3 a.m. or something. So it's like I do think that those environmental aspects of recording can really be important factors to the listener, but certainly to the musician themselves. I mean, you hear stories about like Pink Floyd, there's certain tales from their legacy, or Zeppelin, all these cool recording stories, and I think we just wanted to have a lot of those versions of our own stories.
Well, to cruise through things, I know that we got a tight window to hang, but John, can you talk to me about your 2 guitars it looks like you got up here?
Okay, I can do my best with this one. This one I actually received while we were in Berryville doing the recording. I'd really just been chasing the look of this guitar for several years, and I had some friends that set me up with the shop at Franken-backer, and they custom built this.
Oh, cool.
So it's not really a model per se. It's a 620 body, but then I think it's got the neck of the 650. It's a little thicker. 660, sorry, that's Jesse correcting me. So it's got a 660 neck, the 620 body, 620 electronics, pickups, and everything like that. And I really like the old floating tailpiece kind of thing. It's just it's a crazy cool sounding guitar. I really love it. It's become a favorite of mine.
What do you dig about that? The sound?
It's just got it's got a sound that when you pair it with Gina's guitar, it really is like. Sometimes I want us to sound like we have 2 guitars working in tandem. Sometimes it's cool to have what sounds like 2 different types of instruments playing, and it just sounds so different than our Tele that they sort of, where the Tele's got maybe EQ or sonic blank spots, and where my Rick's got sonic blank spots, they sort of fit together like a zipper in a really nice way.
Yeah, and almost in like a horn section.
Yeah, and this one does kind of has a brassy sound, if that's a thing for guitar. And then the Strats I've got. This one is the American Pro 2 Series. It's got a humbucker in it, so I know that's not cool. But just so listeners are aware, I have never pressed that in for the humbucker. I disagree with the idea of the pickup being a humbucker. So I really like that one. That one's smooth, well playing. Use that in my heavy tuning, and then this is sort of this is like my other primary. These are I would say at this point are kind of my 3 primary touring guitars, and then this is just this is American Pro 1 Series Stratocaster. It just sounds great. It does what I want it to.
Do you use all 5 selections on the Strat?
Yeah, and I favor the 2 and the 4 position.
And
I think they're those sort of in between are kind of my favorite tonal characteristics. Again, because I'm just trying to what I like to be is sort of a sonic support system for Gina, because she's all the fireworks, she's all the sort of attitude and direction and pointed stuff. So what I'm trying to do is just create different like kind of sonic beds for her to thrive in.
Okay. And Gina, what are you using? I recognize some tellies behind me here.
Yeah, I've had this forever, probably in the last episode. This is an American Pro 1 telly that I'm very proud of how worn it is at this point.
I feel like it needs a name now.
And yeah, it's got the V-Mod pickups.
Okay.
And this is the American Pro 2, which has the V-Mod 2 pickups, which I think they designed to just be a lot more well-balanced in like across all the poles. So like no matter what position you're in, it's a more balanced tone, but I actually prefer the V-Mod 1s because they kind of, they just kind of poke out in a mix in like a kind of grittier way, and they seem a bit brighter. This is a very smooth sounding guitar, which is great for recording, but I kind of like the more snarly, twangy telly tone. But yeah, and then this one has, if you're in the middle position, you can put it into series mode, so that's kind of cool. That's not something I really use live, but in the studio, it's great. And they got the heel contour and all that. So that's kind of the main differences between these two. And then this one I have set up for our lower tuning.
Okay, yeah, what tunings are you guys using?
This one's primarily D standard, and then sometimes D standard with a drop D, so drop C tuning. And then this one is C standard with drop A sharp. Yeah.
In strings, do you guys have like a preference with strings and gauges in terms of brands?
We use
D'Addario strings.
We're obsessed
Yeah.
with them. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're very reliable. I think there was one show we were in South America, I can't remember where, but we both broke a string at the same part of the same song.
It was like the only time
really
either
weird.
of us in memory had broken a string.
I mean, not tonight, I'll probably
actually
break a string,
can't
but-
remember.
Yeah.
I can remember almost every broken string I've ever had touring, and that was the only. That's the last one I can even remember.
I know, yeah.
It was in Brazil.
Somewhere in South America.
2019, we both broke strings at the same time in the same song.
It's really weird. But yeah, he's like 10 to 46 and 9 to 46.
All right.
And yeah,
Just for the different tunings, so they kind of feel the same.
Yeah, so I don't know, I just use lighter strings. This one's usually 9s. I think there's 10s on it right now. And this one's the 10 to 46.
And is that the same setup for you, 9?
Oh, no, I can't. I actually don't understand how Gina plays that well with the strings. That light. I've got sort of, I guess, rougher. These hands are more like sledgehammers, so I need heavier strings. I play 12 to 52s on my heavy, which is down from 13s from yesteryear, and now I think I'm finally as light as 10 gauges on my D standard songs. It's been a long, slow, gradual process of going from heavier strings to lighter strings, which I think is not what people want. People always say, you got to go with the heaviest string you can play. But yeah, I mean, these guitars all rule. So whatever strings are on them, when I pick them up, sound great. I don't know.
And while we got you both guys up here, real quickly, we'll hit amps. That last time you guys all had Fender, I assume this is John, this is your area, right? Mm-hmm. And so you went with the Jazz Chorus, right?
Yeah, I think since we've talked, I've gone through a couple different like setups. Sometimes I'll bring 2 JCs on tour because they sound kind of cool together to me. Mm-hmm. But the last run we did like 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were doing a short run up the East Coast, and I had the 2 JCs, and it wasn't totally like as full as I wanted. So I brought this deluxe reverb vintage reissue 68 on tour because it just sounds better with the 2 of them. But I do like to change my amps up kind of frequently. Yeah. I think it helps. I don't know.
Because last time you guys, I believe, also had one of them hitting both. Like you both had separate 212s running like slave out of the combo.
Yeah, that was kind of the only tour we did that. I think. Yeah.
In 2019, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it was adding. Yeah, it felt
on in-ears, so it wasn't really like adding much for, like, I don't know. I thought it would add more like stage presence for me, like playing, but I didn't
feel it.
The in-ears just block out like so much of ambient noise that it's hard to tell the difference.
And then Gina, I see 2 Fenders over there, but I see a big boy in tweed.
Yeah. So I just got this 59 Fender Bassman reissue. It's 410 Jensen speakers, and it's a Bassman, so it has a rectifier tube in the power circuit, which is pretty cool.
Oh, is that what makes it a
2
Bassman?
6L6s. Well, and then I have the 68 Princeton. That's a custom Princeton reverb, and that also has a rectifier tube. So I should maybe use a 65 Princeton, like the blackface one, because that would maybe give me a little more tonal variation. But
less rectifying.
But here we are. Yeah.
It's too rectified.
Yeah. So they're, I guess, a similar. Have a similar power stage, power amp stage. But yeah.
What do you think about the 410?
It takes pedals really well.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's very dynamic. I have the channels jumped. The bright side is really bright, so I just keep the bright side a little bit lower than the normal.
Okay.
But they sound great blended and just takes pedals really well. It's super dynamic, and it's.
And how are you?
It's awesome. That's an awesome amp. Really.
How are you guys running your effects? Is it a true stereo setup? Or are they just hitting the one amp and the other one's kind of?
We have a similar thing where they're both going stereo, coming out of these G2 gig rigs, pedal looping systems here. So yeah, it's just an A and B.
The effects that are in stereo are hitting in stereo.
Gotcha.
Yeah, for sure.
For Baroness, we play in a variety of tunings. With the EXL 125s, I'm just constantly tuning and it just can handle it. Thick enough to handle the low tunings, but like having that like light string gauge comfortability. Yeah, it's been the go-to.
All right, John, you're doing me a huge favor by walking us through your pedal board real quick. Let's start with maybe just the bass tone, like just no pedals.
No pedals.
What's your amp? So everything's coming from the pedal board in terms of like drive, fuzz.
Everything comes from the pedal board. Yeah, we turn I like to keep one of my amps loud enough that hopefully it's got a little bit of bite if I dig.
Okay.
And I feel like Gina's pretty much the same there, because we do prefer vintage voicings. So it's like amps that have a little bit of natural breakup, but not like the Marshall style, more like more like classic Fenders. So it's good to I think it's good to have a little bit of grit in there, which I don't think you can quite hear it at this volume or this pressure, but it's mostly like Gina and I need to start from a very beautiful, pristine and classic kind of open, clean sound, which is why we play the combos. A big part of why we play the combos. A big part of why we play Fenders and the JCs is because they have beautiful, what our guitar tech Jesse likes to call cowboy chords. They sound good. They sound good that way. There's none of that like overly processed sort of modern sound to it. So yeah, you start from it's shit in, shit out.
Yeah.
So if we start from a solid bass, everything else should take on a unique character because of that. So the more headroom, the cleaner, and the more like character there is there, the better I think that these pedals shine. But because we're ultimately building on this.
Well, let's start building and to just show off some different combos that you have.
Right. So my gains just go in stages. So like the not specifically, but basically layout is like I start with a clean, then I've got a low drive, then I've got my sort of stock like every song sort of drive. Then I've got one that's a little more aggressive, and then I've got a fuzz that I can kick on for leads. So my stock clean, this is my low drive, which is the Honey Overdrive, what are they called? Beatronics. So this one feels a little saucy to me at the moment. Usually it would be a little cleaner, but I want a low drive that, if I roll off a little bit, just kind of has a classic sound, but is a low drive. There's no feeding back. And then past that on my board, I've got a circuit that's got both my compressor, which is an old, like a very old Dynacomp from MXR that I kind of had to mod so that it would even fit into a modern pedal board. But also in that circuit, I've got one of my favorites, which is the Earthquaker Tentacle. This is I use this very frequently on our records. It's just kind of a weird pedal. So I don't know. That does that.
Yeah.
And then my stock drive is the double hot cake, which I currently have set to double, but I'll go night by night, but depending on what the power however well conditioned the power is, I can either use one or both parts of it. But it's my favorite sounding drive on the planet. So it can do like stuff. So it's kind of a classic, like a high gain classic rock kind of sound. Then the Rat, I don't know, I just fucking love Rats. So with the Rat, I like to keep the volume all the way up, the distortion almost all the way down, and the filter or EQ almost all the way down, and even almost all the way down. It still sounds pretty bright to me, but so here's my regular drive. This is a more aggressive drive. And then on top of any of these sounds, I can stack the fuzz, which is I think it's just a stock Big Muff that our tech Jesse has modded, and I'm not exactly sure what he's done to it.
Okay.
But I keep the sustain all the way down, the tone all the way down, and the volume up pretty high, and I think I bypass this tone stack. So that can take... Hello, me. Meet the real me. Then for fun, I've got a phaser. This is one of my favorite reverbs, the Dispatch Master by Earthquaker Effects. Just have it turn all the way up with all the delay part of it just off. Okay, so that one sounds pretty cool. We got a little tremolo action.
Gotta have
just a basic Boss. I think Seb hates it. Then one of my favorite pedals is this Deluxe Memory Man, which is a little noisy. You can hear a little noise kicks on, but it's... I got this Boss digital delay, but I hate it, so I'm gonna swap it out soon. Okay. We've all heard that. And that's kind of it. I mean, I got a whammy on here that I can use if I want to. I think that's it. I got a tuner, Strymon tuner.
Gotta have that.
Tells me when I'm in tune, tells me when I'm out. Volume pedal. Tells me when I'm out, tells me when I'm playing.
John, thank you so much for going so quickly. We're breeze through Gina's.
Of course.
All right, Gina, we got to be quick, but I want to hear everything you got at your disposal. So walk me through your pedal board, and kind of how John did it was the levels of dirt, or like kind of the gain stages. So let's start there, and then you can go to modulation.
Great, yeah. The first thing, I just got the 1176 UA compressor, which is awesome. So I kind of have that in with my clean sound. I'm not nearly able to use it to the fullest of its capacities, just like on tour. I just found it's got the three settings: the single, the dual, and the sustain. So I just have it set on dual. That's like the Black Dog tone.
Okay.
It says the user manual. So that's what's going on with that. And then the ratio has the like all buttons in feature, like how the like actual outboard compressor would be. So that's pretty cool.
Got it.
So this is great for the studio. For live, I just kind of have it set at a nice like tone that I like. So that's just kind of my clean sound. Is
that on all the time, or is that just when you're playing clean
just
stuff?
for clean stuff.
Got it.
Yeah. And then next, I just got, this is the Earthquaker device Zor pedal.
Okay, yeah.
This is a new overdrive pedal they put out, I guess, last year or this year. It's a transistor-only overdrive pedal, so there's no op-amp or diodes. Sounds awesome. I was previously in this one's place was the MXR Timmy,
that's
but
right.
I kind of swapped them, so I love this thing. It's really, really dynamic. Like it's really responsive with like the onboard volume control, so I can have the volume rolled off and have a really sparkly clean, and then give it like full volume and get a really full overdrive sound. And then it has this weight knob that adds like low end into your signal. That's really cool. So that's kind of my like low gain distortion sound. So I don't know if this is the best way to do this, or
no, you're crushing
sorry,
it.
If it's annoying.
There's still a lot of sparkle and spank to that.
Totally.
You know, it's still, you still hear the telly.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And then my like main distortion, that's kind of the majority of what you would hear, is the MXR Super Badass, and then I have it stacked with the Timmy. So here's it without the Timmy.
So the Timmy's hitting the Super Badass?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have it set in the toggles in the center, so that's like the symmetrical clipping setting. And so here's the MXR on its own. Yeah. So it adds a lot of high end.
There's a lot there.
Yeah, so that makes it poke through a bit more. And then I have like this SP compressor is hitting this fuzz pedal. This is technically a Philly Fuzz Infidel pedal, but it's the prototype. This
You've
thing
had that for a minute, right?
Had it forever. It's like my favorite pedal ever. It breaks all the time. Jesse's constantly like fixing it, but it's just it's got something special to it. And I just have the compressor hitting it, so it's got a really zippery, like insane fuzz sound. So that sounds like this. Yeah, so that's a nice annoying sound for my bandmates to listen to.
I mean, you definitely will stand out.
Yes, in terms like, I really like that for when we're doing like dual harmonized leads, because it kind of like tucks in the mix. It's not like a really like shrill lead. It's just has that nice like low end kind of zippery, fuzzy, like compressed sound. I think it sounds really good with John's leads when we're doing something together. And then for like leads that are more on their own, I have the Super Badass and Timmy together in a patch with just the volume a little bit louder with a little bit of like reverb. So yeah.
Got it.
And that's kind of it for that.
For the drives, I do see the Big Muff. How is that? Where's that entered in the mix?
Yeah, so the Big Muff has its own kind of station. This is a Jesse Anderson mod.
Now it's a different mod though than what John says, and I'll get the information from Jesse.
Different from John's. He added this toggle to bypass the tone stack.
Okay.
And then we have an option of 2 different capacitor tones. So I just kind of have it set kind of just with the bypassing the tone stack on the capacitors. I don't really know enough to be able to hear the difference between them, but I just think it sounds cool. But yeah. So that's
way different. It's like different enough that it warrants having both on the board.
I like having 2 different fuzzes, one that's really zippery and really extreme, and one that's just a little a little more smooth and whatever. So yeah.
So in the middle there, I see kind of a pile of modulations.
Yeah. I have the DD3 in with this Zor patch, so I don't have it on all the time, but sometimes we'll do like kind of whatever, like dotted eighth kind of rhythmic stuff. Yeah, so that's just kind of lives with the Zor.
Okay.
The phase 90s. I've tried other phasers. I just really like this one for live. It's just really hits really efficiently. It sounds awesome. And what else? The Space Spiral I've had for a while. This is another Earthquaker delay that's got some cool trails to it. Let's see. So it's got a nice long tail to it.
And then how's the timeline getting used? Just more extreme delays and trails and stuff?
The timeline, I really like it for the filtery effects.
Okay.
So I have one that I love, like ending songs with it, or we do some instrumental parts where we'll kind of go off, and I love all these like filtery things. A couple that I've programmed in here. Like this is one I use a lot in the show. I'll just let that roll for a while.
Go get a drink.
Come back. Yeah. So I use it for a lot of stuff like that. I like combining it with the slow. I have the whammy pedal in the same line with that. So a lot of times I'll do like whatever, like hit a Strymon patch, and then add the verb. This is a Strymon patch I programmed for the song Seasons. So really long, more extreme types of delay. The DD3, or sometimes I'll have a DD6. We kind of go back and forth between whose pedals are whose, but yeah, I save that for more of the like tight, kind of picking type of delay, and the timeline for more extreme, like really washy stuff.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we covered everything, considering we had to do it in such a compressed time, and I know we went over, so I apologize to the other bands, apologize to the venue. I don't apologize to Gina, because I'm so glad to have you and spend some time with you and talk
Likewise.
here.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Not least, I cut us off with Gina, but no, we are including Nick this time. We didn't get to do it in 2019. Apologize again to the bands out there. We're going to go through this real quick. Nick, talk to me about your bass setup. What do we got here?
Yeah, so 2 Fenders. I'm kind of a basic guy with this stuff, but
I see what you did there.
This is like the American Pro jazz bass. It's honestly the best jazz bass I've ever had in my hands. And Jason from Fender sent us both of these, and they're just like immaculate basses. I mean, this is...
Yeah, let's hear it.
It's just a thunder machine. And then the vintage reissue P bass, which I have a 64 P bass in Fiesta Red.
Okay.
That I've taken out too, and I like the specs on that. And this is just like, and this bass just has like a really like woody, thick sound to it, and it's a good contrast to that. And this is my low bass.
Okay.
So this bass is tuned to B, E, A, D, and then we have songs like where this is dropped down to A or dropped down to B flat for the Red Album stuff.
Okay.
Or it's also tuned to C sometimes. So these stay the same, but this one fluctuates to whatever I need the lowest string to be.
Understood.
And this one's always tuned to usually drop D in case. But then there's some songs like on Fugue, I do the double stops to cover the piano part. Mm-hmm. And so I tune it up for that just so I don't fumble all over myself.
How did you get to where you knew like this is the low bass and this was the high bass in terms of, you know, between the J and the P, testing them out, and how did you land on having each one have its role?
Honestly, this one kind of wants more attention, just however it's like set up. This bass just naturally wants, it like came like really jacked up and I liked it, you know, so I put slightly heavier strings on it. So these are the NYXL 110s and they're like just enough tension to make that happen. Yeah. And these are the XL 160s on this guy. Yeah.
Can we hear this woody bass?
Yeah. I usually have the distortion on for most of this. You don't really hear the woodiness there, but yeah, and it doesn't want to be overplayed, you know, which was like a really hard challenge for me because I like to smash a lot. So this wants you to like play it in different ways, which has been really cool to like figure that out with this particular bass.
That's enriching, and you know, when a bass brings more out of you as a player or an instrument brings,
for sure.
Yeah, it adds to the connection.
I've dropped this a little bit, but I used to have it like really far off and would just play like in this area. But now with this gauge, I'm able to like dig in down here too. But yeah.
Nice. And are you always playing just fingerstyle? Or you have a pick driving?
Yeah, I mean, unless I lose a bet, I'll play some pick on stage.
What kind of bets are there that require like pick playing?
We bring dice on the road.
Oh, okay.
And we do percentage rolls. Like, if it's over 30, Nick has to play with a pick on these 3 songs, and that's happened a couple times.
How does that go?
It goes fine. I'm just the pick makes an appearance on record, but I'm just like not that great. It's a work in progress for me as far as the pick goes, you know. But yeah, I feel like I like trying to get like the transient thing with the fingers too.
Yeah,
is really fun to try to master and control that kind of thing, you know.
A whole nother dynamic play with the instrument there.
Yeah, and that's like my setup. We'll see with the pedals. My setup is like pretty simple, and I try to like control the grit with like pressure from me.
An attack.
Yeah.
Now, cruising through here, GK behind me. Gallien-Krueger.
Yeah, we got in a pinch, and Forrest from GK hooked us up with this GK Legacy, which is like based on like the RB series, you know, that they had, and it's just great.
It sounds awesome.
It sounds really awesome. Like for solid state, it's the best option, you know. I really love it. I had a Fender Super Bassman as well. And I'd like that's
it's a whole different ball game.
It's a whole different ball game.
I mean, it's a big boy.
Yeah, and that's what's on like the record is mainly like that, and another vintage '68 Bassman that I had. I ran those simultaneously for the record, you know, because we mixed with Joe Barresi, so I watched a bunch of Joe Barresi YouTube videos, and he's like, I always have a dirty signal, a clean signal, and a DI. And I was like,
okay, Joe.
Noted. That's what I will do now. But this stuff has been really awesome, and I'm realizing I need more just preampy type stuff to feed what this wants to do, you know.
Well, let's lead into that. What do you got on the board that's, you know, feeding the beast?
This BB bass preamp is always on.
Okay.
And I mess with it, like the gain structure on that every once in a while. And then I kind of just go between that. And this is like the main thing I'm always, if I have a drive, it's usually the yellow Boss bass overdrive, you know?
Can't go wrong.
Jesse likes to throw random stuff on my board just to make me do something else. So this
Let's hear the grunge.
It's pretty badass.
I mean, I was gonna say, you can't get mad at Jesse for that.
Oh no, I love Jesse for that. And the MXR stereo chorus, which is really, really sick. I was using the Boss OC3 for a long time.
Okay.
And then I stole this off of John, and it's just... It's just a thick machine.
Yeah, I say the elemental's still there of like the bass, the low end's still there. The chorus just kind of widens everything out.
It just kind of widens everything out. Yeah, I do it if I want like the the most bass happening, you know.
Yeah.
Just it's like the thickest part of the nights that gets turned on. And then finally the Sansamp, the Bass Driver DI Tech 21 NYC, and that's always on too. And that's like my DI as well. That's being fed to the amp.
Because of Joe.
Yeah.
Joe Barise.
Yeah, because of Joe, yeah.
Yeah, Joey B.
Yeah, he definitely likes these. But yeah, I mean, this has been a game changer, honestly. I was like, why have I waited this long to get a Sansamp on my board? It's extremely versatile and extremely useful out here.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, so.
I appreciate your time, Nick. I know we're up against it, but I'm so glad we were able to include you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Apologize to all the bands. Go check out the Seb drum rundown that's probably out right now too, so go check that out. Thank you for your time, everyone, and have a good day.